Over the last few days, I'm sure you've seen the reports about late Soundgarden frontman Chris Cornell's statue being vandalized in Seattle. Well, over the last several hours, this story has gotten very, very interesting and taken a very unexpected turn. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we've got a member update on Pierce the Veil. There's some confusing statements being made about the status of their drummer. We're going to break that down and talk about that as well. Stick with us. Good afternoon and welcome to Rockfeed. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're new here, please consider subscribing with notifications on so you don't miss out on breaking news and updates. It's the best way to support the channel. It's completely free and it tells YouTube that you like us and they'll show our videos to more people. All right, first, before we get to this very, very interesting Soundgarden story, we're going to talk about Pierce the Veil. Now, we know back in 2017, there were claims made about their drummer that he had a physical relationship with an underage girl. Now, he, at the time, stepped away from the band, but there were rumors that he was going to eventually come back to the group. And that was pretty much given a lot of credibility when the band performed with him back in May. But not so, says the band's frontman, replying to a comment and saying that he will not be returning back to the band and that he left the group back in 2017. There's some confusion there, and we're going to take a look at this, but this report came from Loudwire earlier today, and this is what it had to say. The report stated that in November of 2017, Mike faced allegations of inappropriate behavior that included activity with a minor. The following month, they addressed the complaints. At the time, an accompanying statement from Mike noted he was stepping away from the group. Now, we saw a comment on one of Vic Fuentes' posts. He is the lead singer of Pierce the Veil and the brother of Mike Fuentes, and he was asked, is Mike back in the band and will he be featured on the new album? And this is his response. The user Poopy Shorts 36 said, is Mike going to be in the next album? And Vic responded saying, actually no, Mike left the band back in 2017, but we're currently working on a new album and hoping to start touring again next year. Stay safe out there. So we'll take Vic at his word here. I've always thought he was a really good guy. I'm a fan of Pierce the Veil's music. I think they're very talented. The only thing that I would add is that I think it is a little bit confusing. They released a cover back in the spring with Mike Fuentes purported as a member of Pierce the Veil. They posted a message, he's in the picture, and it says, you know, they support the frontline workers and things like that, and they signed it at the end, Pierce the Veil, and Mike performed on this cover, it's not a cover, it's their own song. A little confusing. He says he's not in the band though. We'll take the man at his word, and Pierce the Veil is looking to release some new music and tour when concerts come back around. So we'll just leave it at that, folks, and we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about this Soundgarden story, and there are a lot of layers to this. I am going to do my best. I'm really going to try hard to, relay this information to you as concise as possible and not take any, side tangents here, because there's a lot to this story. And so I'm going to try to relay this as simple as possible. And there are claims being made here. I just want to say that as with anything, these are allegations. There is no proof of these claims, but the family of Chris Cornell has an idea of who they might think may have been involved. This is what Vicky Cornell is claiming she was told by authorities, and it is also not related to the Save the Children movement that some people have suggested it was related to online. So for a little bit of context, I want to go back in time here a little bit for you. Vicky Cornell and the members of Soundgarden, the surviving members, have been embroiled in a bitter legal dispute. They have sued her. She has countersued them. It basically stems over the fact that they want copies of music that Chris Cornell was recording back before he passed away. They believe that it was intended to be used for Soundgarden. She says that it was not. And it was solo material, which of course Chris Cornell did record and release solo material, and they are fighting to get that material. Now, I've always found this a little bit odd because, if the wife of the late singer doesn't want to release his music, I would believe that she would know best what his intentions were. So the argument and the idea that you've got his bandmates fighting against his widow, who we know for a fact was on good terms and in good standing with Chris Cornell. I always found that a little bit odd. So moving on, just to have that context there, you now have this statement that came out a couple of hours ago that is pointing out that there is misinformation going around. There have been these widespread protests in Seattle, and there have been riots and there's been property damage. This is something that has happened frequently there. And so I mentioned that yesterday on the show, and she's now saying that they have information from law enforcement directly that says that they do not believe that this is related to those groups. There is an investigation going on, and they are suggesting that it is related to people who are in a feud with the Cornell family. Now, this comes from Chris Cornell's mother-in-law. She made a post about this situation. She was responding to comments, and Vicky Cornell from her verified Instagram account also commented as well. And again, they seem to be leaning towards people who have a personal beef with the Cornell family. And so this is very interesting. All right, so first I'm going to read a statement which comes from Vicky Cornell, and it was posted to Chris Cornell's official Instagram, and it reads, "I know the news of the vandalism was as heartbreaking to many of you as it was to our family, so I wanted to share this with you and clarify the information that continues to spread online about the supposed rioters and Save the Children protesters being responsible for the senseless vandalism, I guess she meant to add there, based on an image being circulated showing writing on the sidewalk. A few days prior to the vandalism, someone wrote in sidewalk chalk, 'Save the Children' in front of the statue. It rained the night before. Consequently, by Thursday a.m. when the vandalism occurred, much of the chalk writing was gone, leaving only the words 'children.' Sadly, the same accounts involved in spreading this false narrative are the very ones who previously liked posts wishing and encouraging that someone would deface Chris's statue. It's heartbreaking to think that anyone would wish for such a senseless act. It is equally upsetting now to see that the same people are falsely blaming others. We would appreciate it if those accounts would stop spreading misinformation and fomenting discord. And as it tarnishes Chris's legacy, it masks the truth and hurts those who Chris loved, as well as Chris's true fans at Vicky Cornell. Now, Vicky Cornell has a story that basically says the same thing, but it's a little bit different. She posted this to her Instagram story, and it says, "We all know and we share the heartache and want to keep you informed and clarify any misrepresentations being passed over the internet. This was not due to protesters and Save the Children rallies. It is not Antifa or BLM. This has been confirmed by local authorities that they do not appear to be related in any way." She adds, "A few days prior to the vandalism, someone wrote in sidewalk chalk, 'Save the Children' in front of the statue. By Thursday a.m. when the vandalism occurred, it had rained the night before and half of it was gone by that point, and only the words 'children' remained. Out of respect for Chris, please don't twist it. Thank you." Now, Chris Cornell's mother-in-law has spoken out about this as well in the comments to those who were talking about whether or not they thought it were those groups that she mentioned being involved, and she seems to believe that she says that they weren't related, and she seems to be leaning towards groups or of individuals, I'm not going to name anyone, who seems to have bad blood with the Cornell family. Now, I want to be crystal clear here to be fair to everyone involved. I'm not just saying this for some legal CYA. I'm not inferring that this was done by any members of Soundgarden. There is an intense feud between the members of Soundgarden and the Cornell family. What it appears to me is that maybe someone who is an overzealous person on the internet that's reading all of this stuff felt compelled to go out there and do something as crummy as this. Now, let's get to what Chris Cornell's mother-in-law was saying on her Instagram. So this is the post from her mother-in-law. She's also named Tony. It says, "Chris Cornell's statue gets vandalized and the world cries again for the legend, anger, sadness, for this inhumane behavior. I personally blame those who were causing hate and encouragement on haters who they blasted all over the internet. They wanted to vandalize it. Those who let these haters follow them on IG and put likes on their pages, I hold responsible. You can't claim love, brotherhood, family, and depression and encourage those haters at the same time. Disgusted by those hypocrites. They will be held responsible, if nowhere else, in my heart and those who love Chris Cornell. What a sad day for the world. Indeed, it is very sad that this happened. So here you have a comment on that post, and you have Tony Cornell responding. I said Vicky Cornell earlier inaccurately. And so the comment says, you do realize that there have been protests and riots in Seattle lately. How on earth can you blame this on certain people? Other statues have been defaced and vandalized before in Seattle as well. So who do you blame for that? And she said, there have been groups of people writing online about how the statue was going to get vandalized or torn down or destroyed. Either way, it's really sad. And again, here is Chris Cornell's mother-in-law, Tony. She says, I believe everything Chris told me, more so than ever before. He warned me of certain people, and here we are. First, he was left by his bandmates with no help or empathy to go back after knowing that he had just passed just less than an hour away. It was hard to believe, but they admitted it themselves. Later, it says, then I see Jill, and again, I don't believe the wife of Evie, it appears she's talking about Eddie Vedder, supporting a troll publicly. No, not plausible, but yes, it is possible. She did and flaunts it to endanger Tony publicly by a crazy and supported by the wife of a high-profile celeb is almost impossible to believe. How's she going to say, I protect children? Difficult to imagine, but possible by some who have no shame. So when you ask, do I believe? Yes, absolutely. I believe anything, mostly to cover up their tracks. Very possible they wrote it. Why not? Are you so naive? Don't think so. Later on, she says, it's so obvious, like fans say, who's behind it? Stupid to ask. They already said it on posts and comments of the loony who has love for Lily so much that she's willing to put Tony Cornell's life in harm's way. Yes, my friend, I believe anything from people who don't hide their intentions, and fans don't hide theirs. They will protect Tony 100%. I put all my faith in her dad's fans to protect my granddaughter. Those who are involved will face consequences by law. So what exactly is going on here? Could it be possible that a deranged fan of Soundgarden could have gone out and defaced a statue of Chris Cornell because he's angry, he or she would be angry about a legal dispute between the current members of Soundgarden and the family of Chris Cornell? It seems bizarre, but that seems to be what the family is alluding to in these comments online. There seems to be a lot of very, very negative trolling going on to this family for reasons I cannot understand. So it does seem plausible that something like this could happen. You know, in today's world, nothing is surprising anymore. And, the Cornell family is going out of their way to say, no, this is unrelated to the ongoing protests and riots and vandalisms that have been going on in Seattle. And that leads the options to be very limited. And it seems like they're alluding to this being some sort of a targeted defacement of Chris Cornell's statue, which is very startling, and it changes the dynamics of this very much. Instead of, maybe a foolish person who went up and attacked Chris Cornell, not knowing what the statue was about, it seems like there is something more nefarious involved, at least from the family's eyes. And so I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I'm not making claims about any individual. The fact of the matter is I don't know. All I'm doing is reading these comments here, and they seem to be telling a very particular story here. I imagine there's a lot more that they want to say that they might not be saying, but it's hard to ignore these comments on a story like this, and it's very troubling to think that it's possible that somebody came out and attacked this Chris Cornell statue to get back at their grieving family. Just really terrible stuff, folks. And so I'm going to leave it at that for now. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And of course, be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on breaking news and updates about your favorite bands. Thanks so much for joining us each and every day, and we'll see you all very soon.